If you work for the Catholic Church and want to reclaim time for discipleship, we're here to help. I'm Thai Hua here with my co-host, John Cons, and this is the Catholic Ministry Professionals Podcast, your favorite leadership development podcast for Catholic churches. Today, we're talking about accountability. If you're a pastor, parish staff member, or ministry leader who keeps having the right conversations but can't seem to make them stick, this one's for you. Johnny boy, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a little while since we've been on the show together.
It's been a long time since you've asked me to come back. So
Well,
appreciate that.
I figured people probably forgot about the last time you were on here by now, so we will forgive you.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm a little bit jealous because last time, or the last episode, maybe it was the episode before,
last
but
couple,
you
yeah.
had Father Crotty on, and then you guys had cigars. I'm a
And
little
bourbon.
jealous. We've never in our over 2 years of recorded and then had bourbon and cigar.
Well, I stand corrected. It was espresso, not bourbon. But still,
That
yeah, you're
sounds good,
right.
though.
You're right, though. But he's a priest. You got to kind of, you got to dangle the carrot, give him a reason to come out. But we don't record in person. That's the main issue there. So
It doesn't matter. You
I
have
agree
cigars there. I have cigars here. You have espresso bourbon there. I've got espresso bourbon here.
Perfect. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you got?
Today we've got. I think this is going to be a good episode for our listeners. Like you said, we've got good people in our churches. What we need though is a little more of a rhythm of accountability. We've got good teams. We got good people. We got good intentions. But somehow between like the meeting we have this week, the decisions we made this week, and then the meeting next week, nothing seems to happen on a lot of our really good conversations that we're having. And so we often feel like we're left with a choice, especially if we're running the meeting. Do we say something to this person that didn't follow through on what we talked about and risk, maybe coming off kind of as a micromanager or kind of a hard nose or something like that? Or do we let it go and assume they're going to get to it eventually and just kind of watch that same pattern repeat itself over time? Or maybe there's a third way, and that's what we're going to really talk about today. We're going to talk about how to build a rhythm of accountability by having three things in place. One is a clear set of expectations for these decisions, a short list that we can come back to, that we can reference for real decisions that were made, and then just make it really predictable how we're going to follow up with people with that regular check-in and accountability. And if you put these three in place, accountability is going to stop feeling like conflict, like we're forcing each other to do things, and it's going to start feeling like a team initiative. It's going to start feeling like leadership that's happening in our parishes. So how does that sound for today?
Sounds awesome. And it does kind of harken back to my old football days, which if we have time, I'll share the story later.
Launch into it now.
Well, I don't want to ruin anything, but sure.
Oh.
So football practice back in the antiquity days, if you will, early 2000s.
So long ago.
So I was a defensive back. I was a cornerback. We're running through drills, and I don't know if it was, the day before a game or whatever. I was spacing off. I wasn't paying attention. And sure enough, they ran like a trick play on me, and they knew I wasn't paying attention, so they ran it. And boy, did my defensive backs coach light me up. And I could have done one of two things. Argued back, like, no, it wasn't my fault. It was the safety's fault. I didn't hear the call. I didn't do it. Or the second thing is what I did. I just put my hand up and I said, that's my fault, coach. I wasn't paying attention. That'll never happen again. And he screams at the top of his lungs. He stops practice and he tells everybody, this is how you hold yourself accountable. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to react when you're confronted about being held accountable. So he used me as an example of like, okay, it's okay to screw up, but it is not okay to kind of pass the buck, right? The buck stops here. If it was your fault, own it. Because that is how the team operates. When we know where the breakdown happens, we can now change or we can improve, but we can't do that if the person that screwed up says, no, it wasn't my fault.
And that, I would say too, that's been something we've been talking about, even just in parenting with my son. My oldest son is 7, and he hates to be held accountable to things. But I have found that it's much easier to hold him accountable, to get himself to hold himself accountable if the expectations are clear. Hey, and I have to relearn like how to communicate. Like this is the thing, and I think it's clear. This is how I want you to behave, but I have to say it in words that he can understand because sometimes my words are too big, or my brain is, just working in a different way than his does. So learning to translate it. So having clear expectations, right, and then checking in, like making it really predictable. This is how we're going to follow up with this to make sure that that this is how you're supposed to behave. This is what I expect. This is a decision that mom and I made that we're instituting in this house that we expect you to take ownership of. And so we can do the same thing in the workplace. And then the great thing about that is people are opting into where they work, right? You were offered a job and you said yes to that job. So now here are the decisions that the leader's making, and this is how we're going to allow you to hold yourself accountable in these ways. And sometimes what we're lacking, though, is that kind of standardized process for setting expectations, checking in, having the short list of behaviors you want to see, of things that need to happen towards XYZ initiative in the parish. And of course, we always want to bring scripture into this as well, because this is not absent from scripture. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24 says, "Let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works." And I want to point out here that we need to notice what Paul doesn't say. He doesn't say, just wait and hope that good works happen. He doesn't say, remind them again at the next meeting that they need to do good works, right? He says to consider. He says to be intentional, to think about how you're going to bring the best out of the people around you. And that's what a team does, right, Ty? That's what your team does. And it starts with me expecting the best out of myself and offering that to the team. And that's what accountability should look like in a parish. It's not a gotcha moment when somebody forgets something. It's not like a performance review every single week, but it should be leaders who have thought carefully about how to stir up within one another, within the people in their care, how to bring about the kingdom in the way that we as a parish staff feel called under the leadership of our pastor, who's been given this divine grace through his anointing, through the laying on of hands by the bishop, to be able to steward this mission. And that's what we're going to look at today. That's what we're going to build today.
Yeah, one thing I do want to say about accountability is, let's clear the air. Accountability isn't people pointing fingers to say how bad you suck at your job.
Sometimes, oh, no, go on.
It feels good sometimes when you do that and you're the one pointing the finger. But at the end of the day, we should all have the same mission and vision. And if what we do or don't do doesn't get us closer to what we're trying to do, let's call it out. Not because you suck at your job. It's probably because, hey, we're not aligned. Can we get aligned to move us closer to that mission or to that vision? Just think of it this way. If we are a body, right, as we should be in the church, if we are one body and my arm is severed off, am I going to sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to let him do his own thing. I'm going to let her do her own thing over there with this severed arm from the body of the church? No, I'm going to say, hey, you're hurting the body of the church. What can I do to help you? Are we working in tandem? Or is it the left hand literally doesn't know what the right hand's doing? So I think once we clear that up, and it isn't a, like you said earlier, an I got you moment, or, we're trying to place blame and trying to replace the people, right? Hey, I don't like them personally, or I just don't like their personality, and I want to get them out. And the only way to do that is by creating this toxic work environment to remove them or remove myself. That's not what that is. Accountability is how do we continue to work together in a manner that gets us closer to our goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And that alignment, that like having those clear goals, I think that kind of feeds directly into the three things for this week too, then, is what are the expectations? Right? Before you can hold anyone to anything, they have to know what they're being held to. Right? And this starts first with a role, but the longer you're in a role, that can transform and it can change. So we need to have clear expectations as decisions are made. And so we have to have kind of answer these three questions. Whenever we make a decision, whether we're looking at the fall festival, we're looking at an Advent service project, or whatever it is we're going to do there, we have to answer three questions. One, what was decided? Number two, who owns it? And three, what does done look like? How do we know it was successfully implemented? We have to talk about those three things, and those are subsets of every decision that we make as a parish team. And hopefully, we are making decisions in our team meetings, not just doing like, a slew of like data dumps and like just reports on what I'm doing today. We need to actually be making decisions that help to leverage the mission forward, to give us a little bit of traction for the mission so that we can have full OCIA programs, so that we can be really moving people through to their first communion, all their sacrament prep, moving them forward in a way that grows their relationship with Christ, that builds the body up. And so we need to really have those expectations clear. And when those three things are clear, then accountability feels a lot less personal. It feels a lot more like we're just both looking at the same decision and asking whether or not it moved, right? It takes kind of the personal sting out of it, because it wasn't, well, you said you were going to do this. It's, no, this is what was decided. Did we do it or not? And that just kind of takes that personal sting out of it. So clear expectations are the first thing that we need to have when we're looking at building accountability in. The second one I would say is to have a short list that's right in front of you. Once you know what was decided, who owns it, just make it visible. And the short list, I kind of think about it like a shared dashboard for key decisions and priorities that were made by the team that can be kept in the forefront where everybody can see them. They could see them regularly. And it could literally live on your agenda each week. These are the three decisions. These are the three priorities, whatever it is. You got to have that short list of things that allow you to frame all the next decisions that you're going to make, right? If we've already decided to do something big for Advent, we probably don't want to add something else just because Ethel came in all hot and bothered because we weren't doing a nativity play. You got to make the most important things the most important things. And the short list allows you to keep clear on what really matters so that good things don't continue to crowd out the most important things, right? And the goal of this is really simple. It's just that anyone on the team can look at it and know in 30 seconds whether things are moving or they're not, right? And when the team can kind of see this short list, they can stop waiting to be told how they're doing. They already know, right? Father doesn't have to come in mad because things aren't where he expected them to be. We could be able to look and see whether they're where we expect them to be and not. And when we can see it, then he's not carrying the weight of what's not getting done by himself. Now we step in and we're really a team, just like that great example you shared earlier, Ty.
Well, I think too, with that short list you call it, you call it a dashboard. You can call it, at the end of the day, it's a scoreboard. And going back to the 4DX principles, like a team is more motivated when they know if they're winning or losing. If there's 2 minutes left and I'm down a goal, you better bet I'm gonna work my tail off to try to at least tie the game. But like you said, if we walk into a meeting and we don't know, man, is Father going to be mad or if he's going to be excited? Like here, I don't even know what we all did. I know we talked about it, but did we actually do it? So if you have that visual in front of you, and when people start ticking off the things that they said that they were going to do, it's exciting, and it's a little bit frightening if you're the one that's not holding up your end of the bargain.
Well, and yeah, there's that feeling of, I think one thing that's really disheartening for somebody is when they don't do something and nobody notices, and then they go, "Oh, I guess what I did or didn't do, the work that I'm doing really doesn't matter." That's
Yeah,
painful. But if it's right
that's a
in
good
front of
point.
everybody, yeah. So that's something where, that's the flip side of leadership, is we think maybe we're doing a kindness by not calling them out in front of everybody. But really what we're doing is emphasizing the fact that the work they do isn't that important. So we need to make it more important by putting it front and center so that they can experience those successes, but also we can rally around them in their failures and get everybody moving together better. All right. And so the third thing then, after having clear expectations, having a short list, right? This dashboard, this scoreboard. The third one is just really, again, predictable check-in rhythms. And so having this short list means nothing if nobody ever looks at it. So it's got to be front and center. It's got to be right where you can see it. But the check-in rhythm is just a regular, predictable moment where the team looks at the list together and asks, did this move? Now, predictable obviously is the key word here, right? Not just waiting until something goes wrong, or not when the pastor has time or finally calls you out on it. Every week, right? Same time, same format. The obvious thing would be to just put it on the agenda as a standing item. Like, it's not getting bumped for announcements or scheduling updates or anything like that. It's like this is the moment that's going to separate this accountability, personal accountability, from micromanaging that sometimes needs to happen, right? Micromanaging, it's reactive, it's random. It's somebody poking their head in saying, "Hey, did you do this yet?" A check-in rhythm is structured, it's expected, and it gives people, again, the opportunity to take ownership and bring it too, right? When people know the check-in is coming, they're going to prepare for it, and that preparation, that's the ownership. And so ownership is really the whole point here. Like, we're not chasing people down, we're not creating the conditions where we are creating the conditions where they can show up ready to answer for what they said they'd do and whether they did or didn't do it. And so we have to, again, make that predictable that as much as we can, probably just within your regular weekly meeting agenda as an item on the list. And so the way this might look in a parish setting, maybe in October we just wrapped a parish festival, or maybe the parish festival's coming up and we decided we're going to have clowns or something, and then we decided we really want a follow-up activity to this parish festival where we collected everybody's information, so we know that anybody new, we want to have a follow-up process for them. That was the decision that was made. But at the same time, we know coming down the pipe is Advent, and so we also have decided that we're, instead of doing like an Advent mission where we're bringing in a speaker, we're going to do an Advent service project as a parish, something huge, big, bold, audacious, right? So we've got these two decisions, right? We know we want to follow up with all of the new people that visit our parish festival. We also know that we have this other big thing coming up, which is Advent and the service project. So we have to really then take that, right? We have to take that and assign these three things, our expectations, right? Well, Ethel's in charge of following up with all the people from the parish festival. Ethel's front office, everybody loves her. She's got a great big smile, she's pleasant on the phone, all that stuff. We know we're going to do that. Maybe we need, what's another classic parish name, Ty? Ethel's kind of our go-to.
Ethel? No, why would we change
Ethel too? Well, we need two. We need two people.
Oh, Dorothy. Dorothy's a good
Dorothy.
one.
Okay. So Ethel's going to run the parish festival follow-up. Dorothy's going to do the Advent prep, right? Realizing that we need to get new volunteers. We need to kind of come up with a process. We need to set expectations for these. So parish festival, it's in 2 weeks. The following week, we want to send out follow-ups to all these people. So there's your expectation. Ethel, you need to follow up with all these people the week after the festival. We don't want them to kind of lose that warm, fuzzy feeling they got when they were here on our parish and loved by everybody so well. So Ethel, you need to follow up. Then at the same time, Dorothy, you need to be kind of coming up with your plan for the parish mission project, and I want you to have your idea ready at that same time. Right, so we set the expectations. We know what they're doing, who's in charge, and the follow-up deadline. So we've really set in place those three things for clear expectations. But then the next thing Father's going to do, or if somebody else is running the agenda for Father, which they should, the admin assistant or somebody's in charge of running the meeting, they're going to put on the agenda these two decisions with their expectations so that it just sits there. It lives there. It's a shared doc. It's a Google Doc. Everybody can pull it up at any time they see it. They're going to see it when they mail out the reminder for the meeting for the next week. It's going to be hyperlinked right in there. Everybody can see it. They go right on the short list. And then we know at the next meeting, it's going to be on there, right? The predictable rhythm. Our next meeting, we're going to talk about these things. Ethel, I want to know what your plan is to follow up with everybody. And Dorothy, I want to know what your thought is. You need to bring us 3 ideas for a really good service project that's not just rote and boring, but is going to light our parish on fire to serve the poorest of the poor. I'll let you bring those. So we've got those 3 things in place, right? 2 big decisions. And of course, you could add, a few other decisions on there. But these are the big initiatives that we know we want to have kind of this continuity, because guess what? We're going to be able to invite all these people who visited the parish to come and serve alongside us in Advent. And we want to make sure that we're getting in front of that. And that's how this all ties in together. And maybe that brings in a third person. So all of this said, we've made the decisions. There's clear expectations. We've created it and put it on the short list like right away, verbatim as it was decided. Those 3 questions, like what was decided, who owns it, what does done look like. We put it on the short list, and then we created that predictable rhythm, knowing it's coming up at the next meeting. And so that's how this might look as it lives in a parish with multiple things going on at one time, but recognizing that there are certain initiatives that are the most important initiatives for our team.
Mm.
And with that, I think we can move on to the devil's advocate. Dun dun.
Man, every time you give me something, John, it just feels so structured, you know, almost too structured from ministry environment. We're not a corporation, dude. People serve out of love, not because they're being tracked.
You know what? And I value that, but I also want to ask the question, how many farmers do you see that go out into a field with a fistful of corn and just chuck it and hope something
Not a,
happens?
not any good.
No, no good farmer. No farmer does that, right? It's not about being tracked, right? It's about structure. And structure doesn't replace love. It protects it, right? If you want to do something well, you have to do it in clear, structured ways that are like geared towards success. When expectations are unclear and nothing is tracked, the people who care the most end up carrying the most, right? And that's not charity. That leads to burnout. And so Ethel doesn't need less structure. She needs to know what she said yes to and that it actually matters and that we are paying attention. She knows to know that not just the Father in heaven, but Father Joe is paying attention, right? She needs to know that. People disengage when they're not held accountable, right? They disengage because their work just disappears into the void and nobody pays attention. It doesn't seem to matter, right? Check-in isn't about surveillance. It's not about tracking. It's the pastor, it's the team saying that what you're doing matters and that I'm not going to let you get lost in it. Right? And that's a really important element of any communion, any relationship that we might have.
Man, doesn't that just remind you of like non-Catholics that say, well, we don't need organized religion. You know, love is love and God is love as scripture tells us. Like why do I need all of these different rules and regulations? It's like no, well, it forms us.
Mhm.
It teaches us how we are to offer ourselves to God and also how we respond to God's call. I love what you said. You said structure doesn't replace love, it protects it. Well, structure doesn't replace the work, it protects the work. Like you said, it allows you to actually feel good about what you've done and that your work matters. Well, if we're not following up and we're not holding each other accountable, I don't it's not that that's not love, but that's almost one of the highest forms of love. Like, hey, I care enough about you and your work that I want to make sure that you're doing a good job as a part of this whole body of work. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you were talking through, I'm just like, man, that just sounds like
Mhm. That's right. Well, and I agree with you 100%. Of course, we want you to be able to take action on this today. So let's give you some actionable steps here that you can do, you can implement. And the first thing that you can do is think about the 3 decisions, the 3 owners, the 3 deadlines that are on the plate right now, and create just a simple scorecard, 3 lines for the team so that you guys can see the most important things that are going on. And guess what? Naming those things, the people who own them, they're going to feel built up knowing that this actually matters not just for me, but for the whole parish. That's a really beautiful thing. Put it somewhere everyone can see it before the next meeting and say, hey, I want to talk about this at the next meeting. Right? That's a really good way to just begin to load this into your parish meeting. The other way to do this would be to just at the next meeting make this a decision that you're making as a team and let the implementation of the decision to have like the scorecard, the scoreboard, to have this kind of this punch list that's right in front of everybody, the short list. Make that a decision that you guys are going to implement so you can see how it works in real time. And that will kind of prove the pudding for them so that they can feel good about doing that. So that's the first thing. The second thing, as always, share this episode with a priest or a friend in ministry and start the conversation about this today. Just pull it up in your little texting app, send it over to them, and just say, hey, I think this could be really good for us. Can we talk about it? And then finally, if you want help building this kind of accountability rhythm, Ty said earlier, alignment is really important. If you're really interested in doing that with your team, but you could use some help, I want to encourage you to bring us in for an alignment workshop and to consider some ongoing coaching. And you can book a discovery call to see what that might look like for your parish at CatholicMinistryProfessionals.com. And with that, I want to thank you for listening to the Catholic Ministry Professionals podcast. Please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps us share the good news of all that God is doing here.
And with that, we'll see you in the vineyard.